Well, we use this opportunity now to welcome you officially and formally to Season 2, Episode 4 of the Trini Inspiration series, the Trini Inspiration Podcast. And today we have managed to secure a guest in studio who literally came from another world to be a part of our podcast and our conversation today. She comes from a Barbie world. and if you understand that reference, it means that you already know who I'm speaking about. And if you don't get it quite as yet, I'll tell you this much. This young lady has so much happening for her. But the crux of our conversation today is really going to be centered around how we, regardless of what industry or field of work we may be in, how we can continue to innovate and find ways, the means, the resources, the ability to be able to pivot through this pandemic regardless of what field we may be in. She is more popularly known for her social media presence and of course for the fact that she is one of the premier and more prominent dancers on the indoor entertainment circuit in Trinidad and Tobago, former dancer with the Primala Dance Academy and now the leader of the 411 Dance Theatre, lead dancer and choreographer / owner as well. She dabbles in social media management and is also a student of marketing and digital marketing. In addition to all of that, she just loves a good photo shoot. Let me tell you, if you scroll through her social media feeds, you will see photo shoot after photo shoot after photo shoot, and you will wonder what world does this girl live in that affords her or allows her the opportunity to be posing for all of these fantastic out-of-world imaginations and fascinations. And I use those two words because if you have imagined it or been fascinated by it, chances are if she has imagined or been fascinated by the same thing, she has already done a photo shoot for it. And that leads me full circle back to her introduction. She came from a Barbie world because one of the more viral photography sessions and video as well that was posted to her YouTube channel was that production, that piece that she did, wherein she and her husband were posed as Barbie and Ken, and they came out of the packaging and everything else of the sort and made such a wonderful entrance. Well, she's not coming out of packaging, but straight out of a Barbie World Star studio known as the Errol Fabian Studio here in Marabella. We say good afternoon and welcome to Leeann Dass.
Good afternoon, Fazeer. Thank you very much for having me.
Leeann, I have to ask though, is there a hyphen that follows Das?
Well,
after you got married, did you adopt your husband's surname or is it still Leeann Dass?
It's still Leeann Dass.
It's still Leeann Dass.
Yes.
If it were to be hyphenated, what would it be?
Das Maharaj.
Das Maharaj.
Yes, it would soon, don't worry.
Oh, you intend to? Okay, I gotcha. Well, I'm not sure if this is the first time we're really conversing since the wedding. How long have you been married now?
3 years
Wow.
and 3 months.
I apologize that we haven't spoken since then.
Almost 3 months. 3 years and let's say almost 3 months.
Very, very, very belated congratulations. I'm not sure when is the timeline to stop congratulating people after they've gotten married, but very belated congratulations.
Well, actually, up to today, I was still getting congratulated because people are still watching our videos and going crazy on it.
Well, before we really talk about the pivoting through the pandemic conversation that we wanted to have today, that was phenomenal. For those who missed it, you gotta go online and check this out. Leeann is the dancer and she got married to a guy who is also a DJ.
Yes.
So the dancer met the DJ and they had a nothing short of an incredible entrance to their wedding and thereafter performance at their wedding as well. Tell us a little bit about that, Leeann.
Okay, so our entrance is actually with a rhythm section because we wanted to add the Trini flavor to it.
Right.
We wanted it to be unique as well. And the performance, however, it was not our first dance. A lot of people get mixed up thinking it's a first dance. It was not. We decided to entertain our guests rather than hire entertainers. Because we are entertainers.
Right.
So we played the steel pan. We did a performance with the steel pan, and then after we did, at the end of the reception program, before we did the first dance, we did a skit, but it was a skit with a dance as well incorporated. And that was a mixture of our story from how we met to the day of the wedding. So it had the good and the bad of it. So all the highs and the lows was involved in that. It was a mixture of both.
I really love that though. Like I can really appreciate that because that is not something that many people would be brave enough to do. We tend to try to want to hide or cover up or at least leave it lying under the carpet. Those things that are not as savory or are not as dreamy as we would like to present on days like that, and what other day more important than the wedding day. So that is very, very, very commendable.
It was actually an emotional thing because in the crowd we were actually seeing our guests crying.
Wow.
Because some of them didn't even have an idea as to how our relationship went. And we actually saw people crying, At one minute they were laughing, they were having a good time, and next minute we just saw them wiping tears.
But that is exactly what you would hope for on your wedding day, right? That it would be a memorable and emotional day for everyone involved, and we tend to try to focus only on getting one type of emotion. We always want that positive emotion, but there's a spectrum, and your story, I'm sure, would have taken people along that spectrum. So
and we connected with our guests. Yeah. On the stage, it's not like we had that connection with them because we performed, we entertained them.
Yeah.
And then they got to know us better. Like, it have a lot of guests out there, some of them may have been Leeann's family and friends. They probably don't know me personally, but the connection they would feel or vice versa.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you mentioned your husband's name because for those who just heard his name and are making the connection, yes, you heard right. Leeann got married to Rojan, and this was a little over 3 years ago. So congrats again. You one of the things you mentioned there was that you're entertainers and you wanted to entertain people on your wedding day, and I think that is something that I've realized a lot of entertainers and a lot of people are trying to incorporate more and more into their weddings. How can you make your wedding stand out? Because for too long, I think we unknowingly so, unconsciously so, have tried to fashion many of our wedding days and the receptions in particular after a mold that we think we must follow. So you must have a speech, and you must have a toast, and you must have a vote of thanks, and you must have this, and you're going to hire a group to do this, or hire somebody to do this, or something of the sort. And it comes across very impersonal at times, and very just sort of methodical and robotic. So anybody who is willing to break from that mold and do something that stands out, I fully support it. And I think one of the reasons that your videos would have gone viral is because of the authenticity of it, in that this was your and Leeann's story. You weren't trying to do something because you saw it somewhere else. You weren't following somebody else's mold. This was, you all thought about your story and you all brought that to life on your wedding.
For the wedding, it was actually 2 ideas that I had, and Leeann had second notes, and it for quite a while. One of it was having an entrance on a music truck.
Right.
So we entered the entire area of our reception in a music truck, dancing, coming in. That was just part of it. And
that was a snippet that went most viral.
Yes, I think that's almost 2 million views on Facebook. Yeah. When we left that morning, before the wedding, I was telling Leeann, okay, well, we wouldn't have our phones running, so, nothing much would be on Facebook. We will select what we want to post the next day. While we were on our way home, I turned on my phone and I was like, oh my God, my entire timeline was filled. People were just tagging people I didn't even know was just tagging us, and it was crazy. But then, we got accustomed to it.
But you didn't mind at that point in time, right?
No, we didn't mind at all. But we didn't expect that because, it was just something natural. We didn't do it to say, okay, well, this would go viral. We didn't. It was just natural.
So, I would like to use that as an opportunity. You were one of the folks who embraced that, right? But like I remembered for my wedding night on the Thursday night, we didn't expect. I'm not sure if we made the announcement or whatever, but we had asked for folks not to post photos and that sort of stuff. We wanted to post it on our time, And lo and behold, by the end of the wedding night on the Thursday night, we didn't get a chance to post those pics and announce to the rest of the world that, hey, we got married. There was one of the guests who came, and when I say one of the guests came and posted the photos, I mean, those people who take photos of like just 3 seconds apart, 5 seconds apart, and literally just dumped all the photos online. so that was one of the things we had to contend with. So this is a good point at which to let folks know that when you attend somebody else's wedding, don't assume automatically that the pictures that you take should be posted online. Many times over now, as a host of many weddings, a lot of couples are opting to make announcements toward the center to let people know, hey, it's okay to take photos, but please don't share until the couple shares their pictures first, and then you could post. It's not that they don't want you to post, it's just that they would prefer that they post it first on their terms.
Even some of them would announce not to go live.
That's another thing. It's not your wedding. Why are you going live? That's a bit narcissistic or / selfish, I suppose. But that's really, that's phenomenal. Congratulations again on the wedding. And I think anybody who follows you online would know that, at least from what you could see on social media, that you guys are having literally the time of your lives. So congrats on that, and congrats on making it work. And who knows, maybe we might, if time permits, we'll come full circle back towards talking about you and Ray in a little bit again. But one of the reasons that I really wanted you to be a part of the Trini Inspiration show is because being one of those people who would follow you online and knowing you in entertainment, following you online and seeing how you have pivoted throughout this pandemic, I think that it is a success story for yourself, but it is also an inspiration that needs to be shared with the wider public. And I'll break it up in pieces. So let's talk first about how you managed to pivot as a dancer who isn't able to perform live at events, who isn't able to have your annual concert anymore. Let's talk about how you were one of the first dancers and dance groups to be able to pivot your performances toward digital platforms.
Okay, so firstly, I would start at the beginning. Honestly speaking, I think it was for everyone. We were on this lockdown just doing nothing, and I started to miss dance, and I was like, my students, what they going to do? They probably just bored at home. I tried different platforms. At that time, Zoom wasn't working well, because when Zoom came out, they had a lot of upgrades, so now it's better. I reached a point, it might sound crazy, but I started to do online classes individual, so per student per hour. Wow. One student per hour. You can ask Leeann, it was like crazy. My Saturdays used to be booked every hour as one student. Wednesdays, Fridays, and afternoons booked 1 hour, because I was using WhatsApp. Because when I used Zoom, it had a lot of delays with the audio, and then while I dancing to teach. And then I decided, I said, you know what, I should probably try 2 students at a time. And WhatsApp allows us to do 7 persons to be on a call.
Yeah.
So then I started to do just 4, because I wanted to give them the attention. I wanted them to be able to, get enough of the dance, learning it. So then I used WhatsApp for a while with 7 students, 6 together with myself, and that kind of bring us together. It brought us together, and then I decided, I said, you know what? We didn't have our concert in August. It was impossible. At that time, we were fully locked down. It was impossible. So in October, I decided, I said, you know what? We need to have our concert. I don't care. We need to have it. And I am a person, when I say I need to do something, it needs to get done. I have to go the extra mile and get it done. It has to get done. And I train these dancers from ages 3 and up for this concert online. It may sound impossible, but it is possible.
That is incredible. And you would,
yes.
I think it's most noteworthy to reinforce or to restate the point that you were doing this before the platform existed properly for you to do one lesson to teach a whole class. So you were teaching the class individually,
yes.
And then hoping that it would all come together on the day of the concert. So fast forward now to the concert. It was supposed to be in August. When did you eventually record?
We recorded the last week in December.
Right.
And the first week in January, which would have been our anniversary for 411, I decided to release it on that day.
Right. And it was, what was the name of the concert?
An Evening of Elegance.
Right. Hosted by Christy Marie Kanai?
Christy, yes.
Right.
It's actually on 411 YouTube
It's
channel.
on your YouTube channel.
Yes.
It's about 30 minutes long. I remembered looking at it when the video premiered in its entirety, and I was trying to figure out, now knowing all of this from you, but I was trying to figure out at the time okay, how is this possible? Is it that these were dances that were choreographed before the lockdown had started? But no, but some of these songs are new songs.
Yeah.
So this couldn't have been, those songs came out during that period, so this couldn't have been. And now getting that understanding, that is mind-blowing and even worthy of more commendation. That is just really phenomenal stuff. So if you would like, by the way, to take a look at this concert in the peak of the pandemic, this would have been in January of 2021, right? Yeah, January of 2021. Then you can log on to 411 Dance Theatre on YouTube and look for An Evening of Elegance, and you'll be able to check it out there as well. Now, prior to that concert, everything that would have been uploaded to your YouTube channel, to the 411 Dance Theatre YouTube channel before that, would have been of live performances.
Yes, everything.
And then suddenly you move from a channel where there are live performances to a channel where it's just one person performing. You were teaching, you were presenting online, posting videos to YouTube channel, performances by yourself, etc. And then of course the concert and so on and so forth. So that too would have been a major transition on your digital platforms.
Yes.
Yeah. Have you had performances? Have you done any performances virtually other than the recording for your concert? Has anybody had a wedding or an event and you've been invited to perform on Zoom or invited to perform digitally? Has that happened? Is it because Shivani and I were discussing that 2 weeks ago when we sat down for this? We were talking about the fact that maybe one of the ways that entertainers could pivot is by letting people know that, hey, listen, I know you're having a wedding via Zoom. I don't have to come. You have a restriction in terms of numbers. So I don't want you to have me, a dancer that you don't know, at your wedding, but I could still perform at your wedding. Has this been something that you've explored or would like to?
It is something that we are exploring, I would say, because last year for Diwali we did a lot of virtual. Like I sent a lot of videos. The Zoom, we never really did like the actual live performance on a Zoom because of the delays.
Right.
Because remember, we would have certain delays with the internet connection. Sometimes the audio would be delayed. So we never really did it to the Zoom, but it had, for Diwali, I did quite a number of performances, different performances, and sent it for certain events. Then some events that we performed for last year in the midst of the COVID, they were live recorded, they were pre-recorded, and we went and we performed, just us, probably me, myself, or probably just 2 dancers. So we did performances like that, not on Zoom, but we submitted videos for events.
So let's look at it from 2 perspectives. Let's look at it from a passion perspective and from a financial perspective. From a passion perspective, those young ladies who are interested in dance and have been your students already, have they taken well to the online classes as opposed to the in-person thing? Have you noticed? Tell us about. Have you noticed like a dropout? Students dropped out because they can't do the in-person thing. Is it more challenging for you teaching online versus in person? How share the dynamics of that with us?
At the beginning, it was a little challenging, I must say, and there are students that I realize they don't have that drive as if it's an in-person class. I can't blame them because that's their choice.
Yeah.
And then there are those that they just fit in fine and just doing everything as they in class. But it is a challenge for me because in person I would have a direct contact, so I will tell them, okay, you have to move your hand, so I will actually move their hand.
Right.
But when we in this Zoom, now I do it on Zoom because
right.
Zoom upgraded and we have a better we actually able to communicate better. The audio, everything is fine now. So if I have to show them something now, I have to trust that they understand what I'm showing them on my end. But now I think they have a better idea and a better understanding. So it's easy. We would learn, I would teach them an entire performance in the same time as I would in an in-person class.
So do you foresee having to, quote unquote, fix maybe some synchronization issues with choreography when such time as you're able
Definitely,
yeah.
because it would always have that, because at sometimes I would notice that a dancer would be dancing, a student would be dancing, and their audio, they would be hearing the audio at a delayed time. Right? And then sometimes some of them, especially the younger ones, they get confused with the hands, the sides.
Yes,
so that's a challenge.
Left and right on Zoom could be right or left.
Yeah. So at the beginning of a class, I would say, like when we now starting, because recently I launched a new class that's a fully online class. We will never go to in person with that class.
Right.
But we can talk about that after. So I would tell them, okay, when I raise this hand, you raise the hand with me. So my right would be your left, right, on the Zoom. So they would adapt to that. So it makes it easier for them and myself. So I wouldn't have to say, okay, it's in the wrong side, turn the other side.
In terms of that's the passion. In terms of the finances now, right? So a passion. You know, those who have the passion for dance, such as yourself and all of the students who have stayed on, they will continue. They will persevere. They're doing it because they like to dance. They want to learn to dance. You know, this is one of their many passions, I suppose, right? But on the financial side of things, 411 Dance Theatre as a business would have clearly taken a hit because obviously you're not out on jobs. Those jobs that you would have done for Diwali, they may have been the few in between per se.
And most of the time, Diwali jobs be charitable performances.
Because that community group is checking you, or whoever. So on the financial side, how has that been for 411?
Okay, so I'll get a little personal here now. Honestly, before when 411 started to peak, I was not employed. I didn't have a job of my own. It was fully my spa and 411.
Right.
And when the pandemic hit, because 411, I had a lot of dance classes. I used to tutor in some schools, in some of the Hindu schools, as well as have my own classes at different locations.
Right.
So it was like an ongoing thing for me throughout the week. And I wouldn't lie, I applied for a job. I did get through because I used to do marketing for quite a while, and when I applied, I got through. So that kind of financially, I was able to move forward personally, in a personal perspective. Right. But when it comes to 411, from performing every single week for events and weddings and getting hired, and even I used to train bride and groom, train bridal parties, all those things, it wasn't there anymore. So it was a big change financially. And then, well, from there, the small minor dance classes up till this day, because parents of the students are now facing this pandemic and some of them are not able to pay for dance classes. And I'm being very honest, there are a lot of students, and they could agree with me, I don't charge them because if they message me, now I'm not saying this for students to come now, parents to come now and take advantage of it, I'm just telling you, but there are students that the parents come forward, or even an 18-year-old will say, okay, my parents not working, I'll have to start class when things open back and they start back to it. But me, this is something that I'm doing now as a passion because I have my job and I still have 411 going minimal, and I will tell them, come join the class. It's just a Zoom link. The class already going on. You just join the class. I don't want to hear anything. Don't let that be an issue. When your parents start back to work, you can feel free to continue payment. I'm not asking you to pay for the months that you didn't pay.
Right.
Because I know how it would feel if you're accustomed dancing and you know dance class going on and you can't do it because why? Because mommy and daddy not working because it was beyond their control. No, I am not a person like that.
So I think we've been programmed to think about charity in the pandemic as only seen through the lenses of how many hampers you could deliver, how much financial assistance you could render to folks to help them be able to take care of their own and what have you. But it is also very important. What you have just said there, Leeann, is also very important because charity through the pandemic is not just about giving something tangible to somebody else, but in this particular instance that you just described, it comes in the form of giving that relief to those students who are still able to pursue their passion, even though they can't afford to pursue their passion, or their parents can't afford to have them pursue their passion at this time. And it goes beyond just the passion. It's also incorporated in that as well is mental health, because if you have been a dancer or had this dream of being a dancer all your life and you suddenly can't do it anymore because for whatever reason, especially so if you can't afford it, that could take a toll on you in addition to all of the other things that are happening around you. Or the opposite situation could be one where things are stressful all around, and you know what? Maybe some people are turning to dance, or have turned to dance, or have embraced dance as the way in which they get away from it all. The way, they lose themselves in this dance class for an hour, and for an hour a day, twice a week, they have a reprieve from all of this doom and gloom that's happening and unfolding around them.
Even the ones that go to school, they study online. So to be behind that computer, just studying, sitting, when you dance, you would feel a relief.
Yeah.
So it helps.
So that is the way in which 411 Dance Theatre has been able to pivot. But because I follow you on social media as well, I also know that you and your husband have found a way outside of just the dance class to be able to pivot the entertainment and continue to entertain, because you started off by saying that you all are entertainers and you entertain people on the day that really belong to the both of you, and that's a very self-sacrificing thing, to have that desire to want to entertain people on the day wherein really the entertainment should be geared or directed towards you. So with that sort of self-sacrifice, you guys have said, you know what, we can't entertain you in person, we're now going to entertain you online. And I basically, one random, I can't remember, Friday or Saturday night, would have been scrolling through my feed and saw Leeann as the hype man. Believe it or not, Leeann as the hype man, and her husband, Rayan, the DJ, doing his thing in the background. And I was blown away. I was blown away for a variety of reasons, but I was blown away primarily so because I thought this was a wonderful way to pivot, to keep your brand awareness out and about, to continue to entertain people and give people some comfort and some entertainment from, not that entertainment isn't available otherwise, but sometimes especially in these times, you want to get entertainment and you want to connect with people that you already have a relationship with or already have a connection with. So those who already connect with Rayan or already connect with you or through 411 Dance Theatre, they're now able to connect with you in a different way altogether. And I'm sure personally that would have been a great adventure for your husband and yourself as well.
It was actually a good quality time. I mean, we entertained others, but we keep it relevant with our brand and our name as well.
Right.
So it was fun. We had fun entertaining. I used to have fun reading the comments and talking back, and it was a lot of fun.
What inspired that though?
Really and truly, I think we were just bored a day. And I am one that always thinking. I am always on the go thinking. I would be lying on my bed ready to sleep, and I would just think of something. I might wake him up and tell him, or if it's concerning for one, I might message one of the girls, the senior girls, mids in the night, and my brain always ticking like how to do things to get better, how we should do this, and I always read another success stories.
Right.
So that kind of motivates me. So I think I randomly told him, you know what, I think we should do a live. But from before, he was doing lives on his own. So very rare, wasn't nothing too often. And it was just the camera there and he mixed it. And then I was like, how about I come in this live? And he was like, you think you're able? And I said, yes, I'm able with anything.
He didn't know who he was talking to, clearly. He clearly didn't know.
I just went on that live one day. He decided, Rihanna is a perfectionist, so everything has to be perfect. And it was a little annoying sometimes because it have to be perfect, and I always try to tell him, you know what, it don't have to be perfect. Just be yourself.
Yeah.
Till he gave up on the perfection, and he just decided, okay, let's do this. And I just pressed live, and we just went live, and I was just being myself, and everybody was just giving the love and the support that we got and the connection that we had on the live. It motivated us to just keep doing more and more and more.
Well, I'm not usually one who would look at DJs online when they're doing their live streams, because a lot of DJs have been doing that for a while.
Yeah.
And some of the DJs are by themselves, and sometimes they're there with a mic man or a hype man, depending, right? And it's just not my cup of tea. It's not entertainment that works for me. But you know this with certainty because my wife mentioned it to you as well before we started. You all caught my attention, and 2 episodes back to back I looked at, and I went so far as to talk to my wife about it and tell her, I really love this. I love this because you all already know that my wife and I are very passionate about marriage positivity, because we think that there isn't a lot of positive material being peddled about marriage. Most times when you hear conversations about marriage, they tend to lean towards the negative side and discourage people from doing it. And we're not saying that marriage is without its share of difficulties, but it is doable. And if you approach it from a more practical perspective, and more positive perspective, it could be very, very doable and it could be feasible, right? And I loved what you all were doing simply because I thought this is a wonderful example of wholesome marital fun. You all are husband and wife, and it changed the complexion, like I was telling you, completely, because whereas a hype man could be there with a DJ telling people, wine and bend over, go down low, drop down 630, whatever, and it would come across very smutty or very derogatory in some instances, that kind of thing. With a husband and wife couple knowing that they're married, you could say what? At the end of the day, that's your husband. You could back it up on him, you could throw it out, you could do whatever you wanted. That's your husband, and it's clean, pure fun, if you could call it like that. And I thought this is really wonderful, and I hope that you all would continue with it. So what does the future have in store in terms of how you've pivoted your entertainment brands now with this live stream? What does the future have in store for the both of you in this regard? You want to continue?
We are looking to continue. We stopped for a while. We had a pause because everything was opening back and everybody was back to their schedule and their routine, and then we started to get jobs, so the timing wasn't right. We used to do it every Friday, and then on a Friday when things normal, I usually have classes in Barrapo in the night, so it kind of was, things were in the way. So now that we decided to start back, we're looking at starting back at a day that would be convenient. Even though things get back to normal, we would still be able to do it because it would be at a scheduled time when we free, both of us are free.
So what's your schedule like on a Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening?
Sunday is actually a free time for us, unless we have...
Because I'm just thinking about it from the perspective of, Sunday afternoons are a real chill time for couples. I can see you already having a heart-to-heart with folks, some nice music in the background.
That's the day that we're looking at, actually, yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you definitely have one person who is in queue waiting, waiting for that Sunday. Should it happen on the Sunday, should you decide to go with that? So definitely one person waiting for that to happen. And I would like to hear more of Leeann and Rojan. Not just as hype man and mic man, but I'd like to hear more from you guys, because I definitely think that you will have so much more to offer.
We actually goes by really.
Really?
Yeah, everything, and I decided to brand everything concerning us because I have some things planned. I have some goals that we have to achieve, but we got a little cutback with COVID, and it is under really because of the two names.
Well, speaking of really, let's pivot to the next next part of the conversation. So we've talked about how you've pivoted dance and how you've pivoted both of your careers and your brands in entertainment. Let's talk about how you have pivoted as entrepreneurs under the Really brand. I remember getting a message from you introducing me to your new line of pepper sauce, right?
Yes.
The Really pepper sauce. The way that my wife and I operate, when you would have sent me that message would remain open. I would make up my mind whether I want to or not, or if I can or can't, and that message would remain open until such time as I purchased the pepper sauce. I'm not sure, but I remember having to message you to ask you where I could pick it up and that sort of stuff, right? So I immediately went and I got a hold of a bottle of the pepper sauce, because we believe in supporting people. Why would I be buying from somebody else that I don't know from when my friends are there, that sort of stuff. So we got it, but I brought it home and didn't open it right away because we had pepper sauces in queue waiting to be used, right? So we actually added that to the back of the pile, and a couple weeks, if not months later, we opened that bottle. And by the time we did, I remembered messaging you to ask you, hey, what happened? I'm not seeing it anymore. What's going on? And then you told me, well, you explained to me what was going on. But let's backtrack and talk about your idea to start this business altogether. So you're using your entertainment brand, Really, and you're now transitioning that into branding products. You started with pepper sauce. Has there been anything else?
No, we just stuck with the pepper sauce. We're doing pepper sauce fully. And
why pepper sauce though?
Well, I'm going to tell you that the pepper sauce idea was actually Rojan's idea. So I don't do the making of the pepper sauce. That's Rojan and my mom. It's Rojan's recipe, but my mom would assist. And I would probably just help with the background work because I am not going to put my hands in nothing concerning pepper. I'm not even going to touch anything with the pepper.
Let me understand what happened here. The hot girl dance, afraid the hot sauce?
I will eat it. I will cook, I'll do everything, but the actual dealing with the pepper sauce because it is something that you have to be very delicate with because it's pepper.
Right.
It's hot.
Yeah.
So the slightest little thing, my skin very sensitive.
Right.
So the Leeann and my mom will do everything concerning the producing of it and packaging everything.
Was it feasible? Did it turn out to be a feasible venture?
It honestly wasn't exactly what we expected because the market for it is very saturated.
Right.
But it was Leeann's idea and I said, okay, let's give it a shot. We're still doing pepper sauce, but we are doing it under orders.
Right.
So if a supermarket order, then we would make it and deliver. We're
Okay,
not
gotcha.
doing it how
Gotcha.
because it was a little difficult to have it at different locations because everywhere we go, I think a lot of people doing pepper sauce now.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the quality.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of people know us, and we would get a lot of orders normally. By the cases, it have people who just call and order a case, and that's just people for family.
And for the benefit of those who have not gotten their hands on it or have not seen it anywhere, we're not talking here about pepper sauce that's being sold in a reusable container or you're using your whole jam bottle or coffee bottle or something of the sort. We're talking about professionally produced and packaged pepper sauce that comes with proper labeling, proper seals. Used by dates, etc. So we're talking. You mentioned that Leeann is a bit of a perfectionist. So you know that entering into that project, it was always going to be go big or go home kind of thing. So for the benefit of those who are listening or viewing, and you would like to know what this tastes like, you can give Lee a call. Do you all have a separate number for the Lee brand?
My contact is actually business.
Right.
So it's my contact that we would use. It's 754-5078.
So all pepper sauce orders,
Yes.
all dance requests, all
Yeah,
everything to do
business-wise,
with Leeann, Leeann,
Yeah.
Lee goes through Leeann.
Yes.
Okay, I think I managed to get that out without confusing myself. Great, so that number again is what, Leeann?
754-5078.
Alright, we'll try to put that up on the screen as well to make it more visible and easier to remember what to store. So that's the pepper sauce venture. But in addition to that's one of the ways that you have pivoted as an entrepreneur. And one of the latest things that I've seen though is that you have used this downtime to pursue academic and other vocational excellence and or further your studies in some regards. And in particular, I noted recently that you started offering social media management as another one of the services that you offer under your portfolio. Tell us about that. Are you just an influencer, because there are so many influencers, people with a social media profile who are offering social media management services but don't necessarily have any training or qualifications, or is it that you decided that this is something you wanted to do and you pursued it and are still pursuing it professionally and otherwise?
Okay, so I am in the marketing industry. I worked in marketing for almost 10 years. Next year would be 10 years that I'm in marketing. And so I have quite a lot of experience in that. I use these marketing strategies and skills now towards myself and my brand. So
Right.
for one, everything that I do, even DJing, everything. And
So you didn't just marry the man, you became his manager as well?
Yes.
All right,
yes.
sorry, go ahead.
And when we everything went online after the pandemic. When the pandemic started, everything was online now. You work from home. If you have to sell a product, it has to be sold from online because everywhere closed. Everything is online now. So because I was already in this marketing field and into this industry, I decided why not do a digital marketing course. So last year, September, I decided to do this digital marketing just to get certified and to learn on the
You did this online with local school or foreign?
Synergy.
Synergy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this one was with online with Synergy, and then while I'm doing that now, I decided, I say, you know what, I am always upfront and talking and being interviewed. You know, everybody would ask me to give speeches now, so I decided to do public speaking. So I used the time and I did digital marketing, then I did public speaking, and then I can't stop there. So I decided I did social media management this year with CTS College, and that's when I decided, you know what, I'm not just going to put it out there that I would be able to manage your social media because of who I am. I want to show that I'm certified for it. And I did learn a lot. It's not, you would never have enough information and knowledge ever. I would do another course, I'm still learning.
Right.
So I decided to move forward, and I am still willing to move forward. And as I went on a live earlier and I was encouraging some of the youths to do some courses, I think during the lockdown and thing. And I was telling them I am actually doing a course right now under Google, which is free. It's an online course, it's a digital marketing course online from Google itself.
Right.
So all these things, I will use these resources to my advantage, to make myself better, not just to say that I am a big social media personality or influencer and just think that I will be able to get it, and I want to be able to get it on the proper way.
While you're talking there, I remembered webinar / training program that I attended recently with the Chamber of Commerce. Stephanie Pemberton, who is behind Planting Seeds Caribbean, was one of the feature speakers at that, and it wasn't my first time attending something that she was speaking at. She herself is a major success story. We hope to have on the show one day to be able to chat firsthand with her. But one of the things that really stood out to me in the last session that she spoke at was when she spoke about sometimes how very cowardly we can be in promoting our own selves or selling our own selves. So we will go and we will sell product for a company, for another brand, for some other entity, but there is a hurdle that we have to cross, and that is the hurdle of believing in our own selves and believing in our own brand and being able to sell ourselves. And that really resonated with me because, you know, sometimes you can second guess yourself, especially when you have these dreams and maybe the analytics, maybe the figures, maybe the support, maybe the sales, maybe the views, maybe the engagement, whatever metric you're using for measurement, maybe they're not measuring up to where you would like it to be or where you would hope that it would have been, kind of thing. But basically Stephanie is saying that you have to push on, you have to pedal on, you have to press on, and only when you can develop that confidence in yourself to sell your own
Confidence, that's
brand.
the main thing.
Yeah, that's the thing. So work on yourself and sell yourself, sell your brand. There's no shame whatsoever in it. It'll be one of the biggest hurdles to cross. It's not going to be easy. Please don't think that it's as easily done as it is being said here. But while you're talking there, I couldn't help but hear those words resonating in my head, because it says then that you have reached this level as an entrepreneur where the only step after this now is success. I'm not saying that there wouldn't be hurdles, but it's success, because as she had explained, you know, you could set up all the systems, you could do all the groundwork before, but until that time that you're willing to convert that brand value into something tangible that you could sell, then you won't be successful. So this is literally the tipping point now that you have arrived at, and I am so very happy to hear you speak so confidently about yourself, your brand management skills, and the fact that you're pushing yourself and the brands that, you know, the brands that fall underneath your umbrella, aka your husband. You know, so I'm really happy to hear that. You know, you've pivoted in so many ways. You spoke about the dance, 411 dance theater, how you pivoted to online classes. We've spoken about your own entertainment brands, yours and your husband's, and how you have pivoted towards online entertainment. We've spoken about your life as an entrepreneur in terms of the Pepper Sauce launch. By the way, are there any other products that we could expect under the Really brand coming soon, or are you tight-lipped on that?
Well, I wouldn't say it, because the person that creates the recipe, that's his That's Rian.
Okay, I can appreciate that. So you'll wait for him to break that
he will
news
review
kind of thing.
that, yes.
All right, great. I'll give him a little bit, hopefully he might give me a little story before, So we've spoken about, how you've pivoted as an entrepreneur. We've also spoken about how you have, at least implied how you have pivoted as an employee, because whereas before you owned the spa and you still do own the spa, and you're an aesthetician, that business has been out the door for months on end now, and it's been sort of a start and go kind of business in the midst of this lockdown. One day it's lockdown, the next day it's open, and that sort of stuff. And even when it's open, people still have to work around to a level of comfort and confidence to be able to return to receive such personalized service. So, with income also being strangled there, you decided to return to work.
Yes, I decided to return to work. When it comes to marketing, I started off as a simple customer service representative in the industry, and then I moved forward into like a marketing specialist. And before I stopped working and just give my entire life to 411 and the spa, I worked at a company. I was actually the marketing manager there for quite a while. It was almost 2 years. And when I left it, that was a hard decision because I didn't leave for any reason. I left because I was ready to work on myself and my brand, and I always say after the wedding. After the wedding I'm going to focus on 411. And I decided to move forward now with 411. And before I left that job, I literally went and did all my courses for my spa. Because I wasn't just going to depend on 411, because I know myself and I know dance is a passion. And I just always say that passion could never be my 100% financial status could be involved in that. Because it's a passion, I would never look towards the financial side 100%. Because I do a lot of charity performances, I do a lot of charity stuff with 411. So it could have never been something that I would look at wholly and solely financially for. So I decided to have this spa, and I still, up to this day, I never push that spa and market that spa to have a wide audience or a wide range of clients because of the fact that it was home. I limited, because the spa is actually home, I limited the amount of person that would be coming home, and because at this time, it's unsafe to just get a phone call and make an appointment. So it's just simply, if I know you, if you call to make an appointment, I'll ask you who recommended. And just ask, and then even when it comes to dance, that's something I would do, because I have to be very careful, because it have the crazy people out there, that will call and just say, okay, they need to make an appointment. So I didn't push that 100%, but I had it on the sideline. So that used to go hand in hand with 411. So when this pandemic hit us, I sat down home one day and I was like, I should just apply for a job. And then my mother-in-law told me about it was an online application. It's an online job. It's not an online job because of the pandemic. It's a full online base, yes, because it's connected to clients in the US.
Right.
So I decided to apply, not thinking anything. I just casually applied for this job because I already said, I just hope it's nothing much. The spa closed. I have a dance class, but it's just like, it's not for financial purposes or anything. The dance class was just for fun and passion. So I applied for this in August last year, and I got the call 2 weeks after saying that the interview was successful. So I was like, okay, I am not being boastful or anything, but I have never been to an interview and get turned down. Never. Yet. So I'm grateful for that.
That may have your confidence that we just spoke about may have something to do with that as well, because confidence is something that is very infectious and is something that has the potential and the proven track record at winning over in interviewers,
Yes. So I decided now to take up on this offer, and I think the company now, they were trying to start a company in Trinidad, but it's virtual assistants they're hiring in Trinidad for the clients in the US.
Right.
So I am under the management team of the company. So I assist as well in the hiring process and stuff. So there are a lot of people that I would do the interviews, and so they know me to be doing their interviews, And I started to again. I don't think I'll ever I will ever want to say that, okay, I quit, because it's work from home. I would still have my dance class if things open back, and I can still have my spa because I can maneuver with the time and make the appointments to suit. So I never let the pandemic keep me back. I always try to move forward because I am not a person to sit down. And I was not like this. I was not so confident. 10 years I was never so confident. I think just being out there and going through the down time together with the good times, that gave me that push to, block off the negativity, because I am sure you would be aware of this too. There are persons that would message you or comment on your things in a negative way, right? There are a lot of them. I would get it very often, and I would just ignore. If I have to delete, I will delete it, and I'm not lying. If I have to block, if you're being annoying and you keep doing it over and over, I will block.
Yes.
I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to give off no negative energy on my pages or anything concerning me. I will just ignore it.
Yeah.
It was a hard thing. From before, my mom used to have to sit and talk with me and say, this is life and you have to expect people to say things. People might say things that are true about you. People might say things that they want to say and you don't even have a clue about it, but that is life. You have to learn to live with that. And I used to be like, how to live with that? How am I supposed to live with people talking about me and it's untrue?
Yeah. I'm so glad that you raised that, Leeann, because I think we can't talk about selling yourself and selling your brand and not talk about one of the major challenges that people face, which is that when you're selling yourself and you receive criticism or negativity, that could feel like a very personalized kind of blow. You take that personally, And over the years, I think we say, look, your back becomes broad kind of thing, and you learn to take these things. And one of the things I can say is that you will never find me in an online spot. I am never going to give the people, the haters, the keyboard warriors that time of day.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that I won't respond. Coincidentally enough, just today, earlier this morning, I was telling my wife that one of the pieces of content that we had posted from our marriage lot some time ago, somebody commented just this morning or last night, I saw it this morning, and they were commenting about our faith, and they were saying, whatever they said, and I'm even going to give power to them by repeating it, right? And I responded to them by simply saying, after they said what they had said, I said, and the beautiful thing about it is that we live in a world where you can believe what you want to believe and we can believe what we want to believe. So cheers, man. And I sent best wishes to him and that sort of stuff. Well, whoever it is came under a male persona, right? But that's as far as I'll reach. And if they comment, I'll leave the comments. I'm not even going to give them the satisfaction of thinking that they have irked me enough to delete the comment, unless and until such time as it becomes an absolute distraction for everybody else or the thread of conversation underneath. So I think that is also a very important lesson if we're talking about selling yourself. You will find and come across detractors, naysayers, and keyboard warriors. One of the other things I will add to this dimension of the conversation is that, sometimes it gets to a point, Leeann, where we actually feel sorry for them.
Yeah.
Simply because, can you imagine, you have all these things, these goals that you want to achieve. You have all of these things that preoccupy your time. You're struggling for time in a day, to be able to get all of these things done. And there's somebody sitting somewhere who has the time to follow you online, to troll you, to just sit behind a keyboard or behind their phone or the whatever device they have and just leave negative comments. This is clearly somebody who does not have a life.
That is true. One of the main reasons that we have to ignore as well, and one of the main reasons that I delete is because I had instances where there are people that love me. Like, I have friends, I have followers, some people would say they are my fan, So somebody might comment something and then I would go along after, because not all the time I would be on social media. I would be busy sometimes. And then when I go, I see this long thread of comments. And my fans and followers replying to this person, and they having this back and forth. And I can't have that in my feed.
Yeah.
So I just have, because the knowledge that I would have to deal with this, your friend or your fan or your follower, your family wouldn't have
they
that.
may not have the same temperament. So
they
some
would
of
think
them
they're defending you.
Yeah. So we actually did that. My wife and I did that as an experiment some time ago, where we left some comments alone, and it was just a matter of time before your friends became keyboard warriors to defend you on those platforms. And we try not to ever let it get to that point, but sometimes when we do content that we know could be subjective, even if it's not controversial but subjective, we try to remind people, to you yours and to me mine. And I think the more we can get around to grooming people and reminding people that, you know, we're all entitled to our own opinion, our own ways, our own beliefs, and only until such time as what I believe in affects directly your ability to live your life, in terms of I am impeding you, preventing you, or, you know, somehow or the other doing something, then it's not a concern. You know, it's not a concern. So the ability to deal with detractors and naysayers and, you know, whatever, it is something that will have to come with the territory, and you will have to learn to live with, to deal with. And the sooner you can accept that, as you will say, not every great teeth is a smile, and the sooner you can accept that not everybody is in your corner. In fact, there are people who will be in your circle who may not necessarily be in your corner.
That is true.
You know, so and usually that's where betrayal comes from. Betrayal never comes from a stranger.
That's true.
It always comes from a family member, a friend, or somebody who is in your closest circle. So it is important to remember that you still have a duty as a decent human being to still be kind to all the people in your circle, but still do not be naive as to think that everybody in your circle is in your corner.
That is true. I totally agree, because I had experiences, and as I said, I had to learn from these things. It was very difficult, and especially with the people close to me, like friends and the family. That's the ones that actually I would actually feel it more. Like if somebody I don't know say something in 2 seconds, I just read that and bypass that. And now I am at this stage where somebody in my circle would hurt me, and it would not bother me for more than a week.
Or talk for knocks back. Yeah. You live, you learn, and you move on.
Yeah, I had enough experience with it now. So, I mean, even Leeann or some of my close friends would say, "How do you do it? How do you just ignore it?" I say, "Well, I just learn. I learn from the past."
But it also brings a different level of liberation, a different level of independence, a different level of freedom, when you could not be disturbed by the negativity that people spew at you or toss at you. And we're not talking here about people who will have constructive criticism, or people who will have something.
I love constructive criticism. I love it. I will grasp that and embrace it.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, my wife and I have been trying deliberately to surround ourselves around people who aren't afraid to tell us as it is, because we really appreciate that. There could be no growth if everybody around you is telling you, "Oh, this is wonderful, you did a great job."
To be very honest, Leeann is somebody that would give you constructive criticism. I am telling you, I would be doing my best at my 100% at my peak, and he would be like, "You know, that not looking good, or you didn't sound good, or you didn't see this good, or you didn't do this good," and I would appreciate that as much as sometimes I would be like, "Oh my God, you serious?" But I would appreciate it, because I know that will help me become better.
It comes back to fool me with lies or hurt me with the truth, and you just really need to be in a relationship and be surrounded by people who are willing to hurt you with the truth, and after they hurt you, are willing to comfort you.
Well, I actually grew up with
however
that.
you can make it better.
I grew up with that because my mom is a person like that. She would say it as it is. She would tell me plain out. She know I would watch. I always watching my figure, watching my weight. And if she see I'm looking, if she see I put on 2 pounds and she find I'm looking a little chubby, she would be like, "I think you need to go on a diet." Plain out. And I would appreciate it, because and immediately the next day, guarantee I'm going on a diet.
Leeann, it's amazing how the conversation pivoted to this point, because I totally relate to all that you're saying there. I live in a space now where I feel like I don't have time for people to beat around the bush. Like, you got something to say,
get to the point.
let's say it, and I will feed off of your energy. You can tell me the worst things, but if your energy is well intended, I pick up on that energy, and we could have that conversation holding hands.
Yes.
It doesn't matter what is coming out of your mouth, good, bad, or indifferent, but I know that you mean well, and I can live with that, and I actually prefer that. My tolerance for bullshit over the years just went out the window.
Same here.
And not just bullshit in terms of like people doing notishness, but you see this beat around the bush thing and all the nonsense and the drama and thing and whatever. Like I think I've become allergic to the notishness and allergic to the drama.
Sometimes you just be like, where you getting this time? I just be struggling for 2 minutes extra to do something.
Correct. So, I've really enjoyed this conversation, Leeann, and I want to put this in perspective. There are many people in Trinidad and Tobago who have a very lowly opinion of dancers in particular, and Indian dancers, because from time go back, from decades ago, people saw Indian dancers, females in particular, females were always viewed as ditzy, stupid or bad things, as we say, and the guys were all given a label of being gay. To be an Indian dancer, you're definitely gay, and we kind of pigeonholed people and their professions into those categories. And I loved having this conversation with you and not raising this issue until the very end, because the conversation itself would have debunked all of that. The conversation itself debunks the lack of ambition, and because it actually proves the conversation, shows most certainly so the exact opposite. Here is a young lady who is a dancer, who is an inspiration, who is an entrepreneur, who is a good example when it comes to marriage. There's just so much positivity oozing out of you, your marriage, your brand, your relationship, your business, and that in itself. Your actions is one of those cases where they say your actions speak louder than any philosophies, anything anybody else can want to say about you. You don't even need to respond to it. Your actions speak for themselves.
But let me just touch back on what you say with the dancers. Dancers tend to have a stigma on them, right? And that is based on 10, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And I actually faced it, when Ryan met me. Nobody didn't, he never would have expected that to be dating a dancer, right? And he got it a lot of his friends or family,
just those 3 words that you mentioned, I can imagine those 3 words would have made the rounds. Dating a dancer, and it would have come with a very negative connotation.
Because imagine he have to say, my girlfriend is a dancer, right? So the stigma that was left on us, he had to cope with that. Now he had to understand that, and I had to show him, dances are not what people on the outside think they are. This is how dancers would be. This is how dancers would do things. We are not just dancers. We have a life. We have a job. We are not just dancers. This dancing is something like a form of enjoyment, a passion, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
So he gradually understand, and it became better. It was a better understanding for him. And then now I'm a teacher, I'm a tutor, I am the leader, I have girls under me. So I tend to tell them, 411 has a standard. So if I see one of my dancers, most of them are teenagers.
Yeah.
And that's the time in their life where they would have their downtime, but they would think it's a peak.
Yeah.
Because that's the time they feel they're big.
Yeah.
So as we would see, right?
Yeah.
So I would literally pick up my phone and I will be like, hello, you need to understand you're a member of 411, as a young lady, you have to carry about yourself like this. You could do this in a different way. You could post this, you could post it in a different way. Don't be so, we have a standard that we set.
Yeah.
You don't want the stigma to remain on dancers now. We could change that.
Yeah.
We could show them. Most of my dancers in UAE right now, they're studying, a lot of them have their degree.
Yeah.
So we are not just dancers. So take that stigma out of us.
Mm-hmm.
We can become somebody very important to society.
But if anything at all, just by the trade alone, just by virtue of being a dancer there in Trinidad and Tobago, there are 2 virtues that I think really stand out there. One is the discipline, because to be a dancer requires a lot of discipline in learning the choreography, in the hours dedicated to the trade and learning of the trade, and not just learning it but being able to excel at it. So the discipline is definitely one. And the second that would really stand out to me is patience, because I have I cannot, even to this day, having been to so many concerts, performances, events, weddings, etc., I myself still do not have the patience that many dancers have. When you show up at an event booked for a performance at 4 p.m. and you're not actually going on stage until 6 p.m. and you have to kill 2 hours at the event waiting. And usually when you get the call, it's 2 minutes before, so you have no time to prep and whatever. So in terms of me being able to see it firsthand, those are the two things that would definitely stand out to me. The discipline and the patience.
Well, that, as you mentioned that, I remember going to perform for a wedding. It was a group of us. And we went to perform. We were supposed to perform, I think, at 2 p.m. and we did not perform till 7:30. After that day, in my book, it's only contract. On the contract, we have a specific time frame that we will be at the venue at your event. And I'm not saying that we're giving you 10 minutes. I will give at least an hour.
Yeah.
Right? Because I know there are delays, there are things that would happen.
And you know the nature of the events and how
Yes.
sometimes programs need to be adjusted.
The contract now, the professionalism now have to come in and you have to take a stand.
Yep.
As much as it would be hard, I learned it the hard way because what if we had another event to perform for?
Yeah.
What if then we would have to leave and then we couldn't just leave just so because we didn't have a contract with them.
Correct.
So that now I have a contract even because due to COVID, after the first lockdown we had, I redo my contract because of the fact that I had a lot of refunding to do. Normally we don't do refunds.
Yeah.
The contract states no refunds, absolutely no refunds from your down payment. Because of the fact sometimes people would ask us, they would request a certain performance, they would request 3 songs in a mix. Now we have to start the prep for that.
Yeah.
So when we take in our time now, I have to take that time, I have to get the mix done, I have to choreograph and I have to start to train the gigs. When it is I do that and then you decide that you want a refund and I'm not talking about COVID, I'm talking
you
about
already invested time.
Yeah.
It's not just about the performance.
Then we cannot refund you. So we have that policy set and fixed. So eventually I refunded the clients because it was COVID and it was a situation where it was beyond our control. So I decided. But now our contract states that, if a pandemic hits us, now your down payment can move forward to a later date. Because there are times that we would already be preparing for a performance and then I just have to give you your down payment. So I took it a little bit and it's stated now that if a pandemic hits, we would not be giving you a refund, but you can select a date once we are available later on.
So it's kind of nice that you mentioned that because 2 things. One, when we spoke with Shivani in terms of wedding vendors 2 weeks ago, one of the things that she mentioned was that her contract did not previously obviously take anything about a pandemic into consideration, so she would have had a lot of refunds to give. But I will say I feel a little proud in this moment because as an MC, I also drafted contracts about 2 years ago, maybe only 2 years ago, simply because there are some things, even though it may be said or agreed upon, and the whole shake hands on it kind of method, you still need to have it written. And because of some of the really horrible experiences I've had, there was one in particular that drove me over the edge, and I spoke about that with Shivani, and that was the one where I went to the wedding and the reception, and the reception itself had to wait for it to start, and then when it started, it took like about 3 hours for the reception, and then they still want you to stay back for other things and whatever. So we came up with our contracts, and my contract actually states that that the half of the payment is received or must be made on the day that we meet for the consult. Because when we meet for the consult, that's where I'm sharing ideas with you. That's where I learn about you, but I'm giving you ideas and I'm helping you to construct things or whatever. So my years of experience is actually going toward you in that moment. But you have to pay for this because there is no guarantee that you could, at that point in time, if there is no contract in place, you could say, well, you know what, I could get this service done cheaper with somebody else, but I'll take your ideas and do it with this other person. So I charge 50% down on the day of the consult, and the other 50% received on the day of the wedding. And I've broken up my fee structure in that way so that the 50% down is non-refundable. You're actually paying for the consult, for the guidance, for the ideas and everything else. So if we were to call it off at that point in time, you cannot recover that 50%. If, however, in the event of a pandemic, that 50% has already been sorted, I do have a provision in the contract which says that should you decide to go with somebody else, or would like to go with somebody else, or if you reschedule, for whatever reason your wedding can't happen and you reschedule, I will come to host the event for you at the remaining 50%, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, once I'm available, because it's an ethical thing, right? So once I'm available, I can come, and if I'm not available, my first option would be to try to get somebody for you. I will brief them, so you don't have to, and they will charge you, they will provide the service for you at the remaining 50%.
Yeah.
Right? And if that is not possible, then we end there and you go ahead and seek somebody else. So I didn't even realize up until we had this conversation that I was covered, thankfully.
Yes, no, well, that's true, because that's something that I would do as well. The consultation, however, would be like if they would like me to choreograph and train them as a bride and groom dance or a bridal party. And I used to do this even before we did our wedding dance. But after the wedding, I got a lot, it was high in demand.
Yeah.
So last year, this is an example of what you just spoke about. Last year, after the first lockdown, a bride and groom contacted me, and their wedding was in December. So they wanted me to train them to do a bride and groom dance. So I was like, okay, yes, but normally when we meet for the consultation, they pay their 50%.
Yeah.
So that's how I would do it as well. And everything was fine until we went back into lockdown again. I think it was July, August. And I think they issued the restriction where it was 25 people for a wedding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So now this bride and groom, they called and they said, we'll have to push back the date. I said, no problem. As the contract stated, we can push back the date for the event for me to perform, for me to teach them their dance. So it was quite fine, normal. And then they said that the venue now wasn't allowing them to change the date. So they had to do their wedding with the 25 people on the date. So they started to think now if they should do the dance. So I didn't want to put pressure on them because I know they're already pressured with other vendors and down payments and other things. Because it's only 25 people now. So I told them, the same 50% down payment. I could come if you want me or you want 2 dancers or 3 dancers for the value of the 50%.
Yeah.
To do the performance instead of me tutoring you and choreographing, because we didn't start anything as yet. I was willing to do that. And they agreed on that. They agreed to do that. And then during the time now, because I was so nice to them and I give them the option to do that, eventually, they end up learning the dance. I tutored and everything went as normal, even though it was downsized, the wedding was downsized, because it's the communication that we had.
Yeah. It's the communication, it's the vibe, it's the energy, it's the goodwill towards people altogether. Because even though you have a contract, that's the legal element to safeguard yourself.
Yes.
But even if I am not contractually obligated to do something for someone, I still stay. I'm not going to say that my contract says an hour, and at the end of the hour you leave. That's just not the way I operate as a human being. And I think for the most part, most of the people who will hire me, they usually either saw me at an event or it's a referral. And so they in turn would know that, okay, they understand these certain things because many of them have had similar experiences. So they understand, so it's never been an issue. But I'm not going to run out of your event because the time has lapsed.
It's true, but if they overdo it, I will have to make mention, and because some people, they are a little too inconsiderate.
Shivani and I spoke about that too, so in terms of the bridezillas.
And then it was something that I remember performing at a wedding, not very often. I will tell Leeann to come and go with me because, sometimes they have to wait, and I just tell them I'll just do it on my own, if the dance is going with me. I've company. And I went to perform for this wedding, but I think I had a performance the morning for a ceremony. I knew the ceremony, and then I had a reception. So I was back and forth, and I asked him to just go with me. And when we reached there, I think they got kept back with the photo shoots and whatever. And I was supposed to perform at a specific time, and I didn't get to perform. It was an hour late. So I think it was the bride's sister. She came and she said, "You want to leave because they know they did the contract." So she said if you want to leave, you could go ahead and leave. I say how much time again it have till we, I think that they had some issues. Somebody wasn't well, it was a lot of issues on it. So she said in about half an hour. I said no problem, I would wait, I would hold on, because I know sometimes they get delayed for certain things, and so I was like, okay, no problem, I'll hold on. You know, when I finished dance, as soon as I finished my second performance, I had 2 bags filled with treats and food, and they appreciate, they appreciate the fact, and they would definitely recommend me because they know, I didn't have to stay, but again, I did it because I know the situation that they had delays for and all those things. But then there are those that will take advantage of it. So I usually would look at things at a different perspective, and I would know if somebody's taking advantage. Because there are times that we would go to dance and nobody would even check on us. They don't even care to say, okay, well, we're running a little late. I would have to go and look. And sometimes we fully dress and I have to go and look to see why is we running late, what we're waiting on. At least let us know. Sometimes we have a job, a next dance job. If I have a dance for 4 o'clock, I know I could take one for 7. Especially if it's close, because it does a lot of time in between. So if I have a dance for 4 and then one at 7 and at 6 o'clock I didn't dance it and nobody comes to tell me anything, day and then I'll have to put down my feet.
Understand. And one of the major benefits, I think, of having a contract has nothing to do with the people who are hiring you, but it has everything to do with yourself. In terms of when you do the contract, you're reclaiming your power, you're reclaiming your respect. Because a lot of times, too many times over, dancers and entertainers and other wedding vendors and MCs, etc., their talent is taken for granted. So you assume, like people assume that, in my instance, you're just going there to say a few things or to speak. If anybody could do it, why are you hiring me? Come do it yourself and see how easy it is. Come do it yourself when the world is falling apart behind there, and I'm still able to stand on stage here and smile and make your audience believe that everything was meticulously planned and is going exactly according to plan.
That's true.
So the value of the contract is really, it's not about safeguarding the money, it's about safeguarding the respect of your time and more so of your talent. Don't take my talent, don't take my time, and don't take my experience for granted. Do not assume that because you're not a doctor, an engineer, an attorney, or something of the sort, that our skill is without value. Because if it was without value, if you yourself didn't recognize the value in it, right, you would not have had us there. You would not have wanted us to be a part of this event. So please don't take it for granted.
That is true. And as you said that, I would say something. A lot of times people would think that, you have a skill and you have a passion and you're doing it for money. Honestly speaking, I would talk as a dancer. Most of the times I would go to dance and it's not about the money, because the money cannot compensate me for the things that I would go through to go and do that performance. It could never compensate.
When you charge a couple $100, right, for a dance performance, does the average person really believe that a few $100s could make up for the hours of time invested in learning the dance, for the hundreds of dollars spent in the costuming, for the transportation to the event? And usually the transportation is not just yourself, the dancer, but whoever else is accompanying you, etc. For the time and maybe even money that you would have had to invest to secure your soundtracks or to get a DJ to do the mixes for you and make the mixes seamless. And in addition to all of that, for the time that you're going to spend at the event, a couple $100 simply cannot pay for that.
It cannot.
If anything at all, I learned from conversations with Michael Sadekram over the years that a lot of times the money that you make at the performances is just really to keep the costuming flowing over, because there's always wear and tear on the costumes. You have to invest money for fabric and for beads and for feathers and for whatever else.
What I usually do is go back to the concerts that I have. Well, the last concert, it wasn't an event where we could sell tickets, but usually, and my dancers and the parents, I think they appreciate this. When it is we do the dance concert, the entire profit from the concert, because I would ensure that everything runs smooth. I would coordinate everything and make sure that we plan everything properly. And we actually sold, I think, about 500 tickets the last concert that we had that you could have purchased tickets for. All that profit would go into costuming. The most we would do is if we take it out for charity, a percentage to give probably a home or for some sort of charity, but everything would be going towards costuming. It had a year that I asked the parents to pay for the costume, and then they had to sell the tickets. So so say for example, they pay $1,000 for a costume, they sell 10 tickets and they receive back their money.
That's not a bad system at all, actually.
Yes, but there are those that would not be able to sell the 10. So what I usually do, they sell the tickets, they bring the money to me, and then, well, of course we will have, it would be a profit because we'll have to pay for certain things for the concert, like the venue and thing, right? And the profit after the concert, the same week I will ask them to meet the day we have dance class, and everybody that paid for a costume, I would give them back their money, and then whatever is remaining, I will take that, and we have an account that we would use for future costuming or props or whatever, because it is hard now to depend on having to go out to perform and get the funding for these costumes. So that's one of the reasons why we have our concerts, as well as the giving the encouragement to the children and the motivation to go and perform.
Yeah, this has been a most interesting conversation. I think even though I knew that it was going to be an intriguing and interesting conversation, and I knew that we had so much material to cover and that sort of stuff, I really, this went a lot better than even I expected, because there's just so much inspiration to be had from this conversation, you know, for anybody who is a dancer, who is in the performing arts, for anybody who is a wedding vendor, for anybody who, regardless of the field that you are in, like I said at the start, there is a way to pivot. It's not necessarily going to be that you are going to pivot and still be able to maintain your income or maintain your lifestyle. You know, heck, we're in the midst of a pandemic. Things are not well, you know.
That's true.
So you have to decide up front, or at least acknowledge up front, that you may not be able to maintain, you may not be able to stay at the same level or whatever, or become an overnight success if you pivot, but it allows you to keep functioning. It allows you to keep ticking over. It allows the payroll to continue. It allows you to keep your head above water, even if it means that you're doing something you've never thought about doing before, you know? And that's really the goal of what I hope to achieve from this conversation, to provide some inspiration to folks, to let them know that, listen, if you were in oil before and now, you know, you've lost that job and you were looking for a job but you can't get any now, because whereas you had hope that you would get a job before the pandemic hit and now nobody's hiring, there is something that you could do. What it is, I don't know, because I don't know your individual skill set, I don't know your temperament. The best person to know that is you. You have to use this opportunity, this time now, to do some soul searching and see where your skills lie, where your passions lie, what you've always wanted to do that you now have an opportunity to do, what skill you have that you've not been utilizing, what skill you have that you've not been charging for previously that maybe now you could start charging a little for, and whether you're going to cook food and sell, whether you're going to take your business online, operate an online business, get into social media management, offer a service to somebody else remotely, whatever it is, only you will be able to know that.
And one thing that I would like to touch on as well as we enter that support. Given support, you would not know when your turn will reach, and you will need that support, because simple as we putting together that virtual dance concert, I mean, it was in the years before, it was we had to invest, so it was a lot of investments, because you have to get a venue, you have to get a photographer, a videographer, you have to get a decorator, you have to get, just like planning a wedding is an event. And because of the support that I would give, like I usually would work with KYN photography, so because the support I would give him, I was able to get him to do our dance concert, because we had no funding to do it, and he took the initiative and said, okay, Leeann, we will do it. And same thing with Christy, same thing with Nia Valley, with Carl. So I had the support because I give that support.
Yeah.
There are times that I may have to do something for you, and as much as I would be so busy, or I think that I cannot make the time, I will say, okay, Fazeer, I will be there. Leeann is asking me sometimes, how are you going to do that? And I would make it happen.
Yeah. And this is where the importance and the power of relationships cannot be underscored enough. So this is not about just hiring a vendor for the sake of, or hiring someone for the sake of, or changing vendors or changing people over the course of time, but really and truly trying instead to build more meaningful relationships with suppliers, with customers, with clients, with colleagues, with, you know, because when you build these relationships, and this is where what I'm getting at it is that it doesn't always boil down to the dollars and cents line.
No,
it's not always bottom line, because you know what? If you didn't have that relationship with KYN photography, you think anybody else was going to come do that for you for free?
Definitely not.
But because of the relationship,
yes.
That is a value, that there is goodwill and there is relationship value that just cannot be stated on a balance sheet or a profit and loss statement.
But at the same time, right? Like, for example, we'll use KYN as an example. Because I have the support as well from the students and their parents, it was easy for me to say, it could be for anything. I'm not just referring to KYN and that situation, right? Anything. Once there is someone willing to assist 411, my parents and dancers, the members of 411, they know for a fact that I try my utmost best to get things done, to make 411. And I'm not doing this for myself, because I always tell them 411 is not me. It is everybody together. And if, for example, you do something for us and you're not charging us, I will try my best to say, okay, everybody could put $20 and say it's 100 students, you know, it would add up. So I would put that forward to them, and they willingly, I don't tell them they have to do it, because I know during the COVID and thing, everybody was different for everybody.
20 has different quality for everybody.
Yeah, so I would say whoever is willing to contribute it, and I will get that support. So I have this. I always say to everybody that I have the support throughout for me to be where I am today, from everybody around me, and it all goes back to me being the person I am to everybody else.
And therein lies another important lesson as well, in that as much as you are pumping your own brand now, Leeann 411, really, and managing your husband's brands as well. As much as you're doing all of that, it is very tempting to make it sound like the success is purely yours and purely because of your hard work. But it is also important for every single person to know that you cannot do it alone. You cannot do it without a support system. Leeann, one of the biggest lies I think has ever been told by successful people is when they talk about themselves or refer to themselves as being a self-made success story. I think what that means is that you are an ungrateful person. You may not have had one person supporting you consistently over a period of time.
But you keep getting the support.
Correct. There's somebody who opened the door for you, somebody who gave you a blight, somebody who gave you a contract, somebody who helped you with something, somebody who did you a favor. It may have been an administrative favor, but you didn't do it alone. There were people who helped. You may not remember all the names, all the faces, all the people, all the places, but you did not do it alone. And I really, over time, thinking about that line more, have really gotten to the point where I kind of despise that line. You know, anybody who says that their success, that they're a man-made success or a self-made success, I actually see that as a very arrogant and or ungrateful person. So it is very important that you build your empire, and little did you know you were building your empire, Leeann, because you've been focusing on your brand, but because you assume that the way that you operate is just how I am, you fail to realize maybe that how you are is building relationships, and in turn is helping you to build your empire. So when you start pumping your brand, you already have a cult following, you already have a tribe,
and I realize
that is supporting you.
I realized that not too long ago, just probably 2 or 3 years ago, because in 2019 when we had our concert, that was the last concert we had big, and you know we had a lot of people there and things, right? And in 2019 when we had that concert, previously when we have concerts, my mom was there, so she used to take care of things, because anything that I'm having, My mother would be there 100%, Leeann would be there. My father, he wouldn't be there in the front, but if I say this have to do and that have to do, I am guaranteed that it will be done. So in 2019, my mother wasn't in Trinidad when we had this concert. So she was on vacation. So she kept asking me, so how are you going to manage? I was like, you don't worry, I will manage. But deep down inside,
you were worried.
I was hurt. I remember I was so hurt. And then my best friend, she took it up on herself and she said, here's what, everything that your mom used to do, give me to do. I said, you sure? So she said, yeah. I said, my mother used to handle everything. I never used to be worried about anything. So then I had her deal with the stuff. Ray was in charge of the sound system and everything. And I had Anthony Batson help me with the coordinating of the artists coming to perform and scheduling them which times that they would performing. And just before that concert starts, I sat and asked myself, I am sorry to say it, but no, I wouldn't say that again. My mom is not here. Is these individuals able? Would they be able to do this? Because I was doubting them.
Yeah.
Because I'm accustomed to the usual with my mother fully supporting me. I have nothing to worry about. And now she's not there that specific day. And I have to depend on everybody else. So I have to depend on each person to do different tasks. And after the concert, but I literally cried before the concert started. I literally started to cry. We were about to go on the stage because I was doing the opening performance. And one of the parents, she hugged me and she said, what happened? I said, just feeling a little overwhelmed. But deep down inside, I know my mother not here.
Yeah.
So I got emotional and I just said, oh my God, I just hope everything goes well. And at the end of the concert, everything was successful. Everybody did their part. My father was in charge of the sales with the drinks. We didn't have alcohol because it was kids, but like we sell refreshments to help with the funding. And I had parents taking care of selling the finger foods and things. And then I had my friend seeing about the overall thing. She had to go and check on everybody and make sure everybody had everything they need. And with tickets, she had everything to do. Everything that my mom's supposed to do, she had to do. Then Ray handled his section properly. And at the end, I would say, okay, it was not a success for me. It was a success with everybody because this wasn't just me. It was, my friend she didn't have a clue in anything with dancing. She didn't know anything about it. It was a concert. It wasn't normal for Leeann. It wasn't somewhere where he going to just mix and play music. It was a concert. He had to play for artists. He had to play the specific song for the performance. He had to know which performance going when, And everything ran so smooth and I was very thankful. And I would always say, as back to what you were saying before, your success is not yours.
Correct.
That's the best way to sum it up. It is the support of everybody else around you, even who was not there. Because my mother wasn't there, but she called my father and she told him, you need to be there on time, you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to do the other, So it was a team effort.
Yeah, I am really blown away by the conversation, Leeann, and I think that if I had to sum it up, I would sum it up by saying that whatever field you're in, there is hope, even in the midst of the pandemic. Pivot and know that you have support.
Yes.
However much time, effort, energy, resources you would have invested into people, now is the time when you will see that payback. Sometimes voluntarily so, but also don't be afraid to ask. Too many times we are afraid or ashamed to ask for what we want, but many times over, the people who are in our corner would love to help, but sometimes they need to be told how or informed as to how they can.
I usually would get that a lot. Like, it have people with afraid to approach me. I don't know for what reason or why they would afraid to come forward and ask me for assistance in anything. Even if they're paying me, they just afraid to approach me. And I so normal, and just approach me. But you have to give the support.
Yeah.
Because you don't know when you will need the support.
Yeah.
You can't just leave people behind and don't pay no attention and then expect them to support you. Because I believe the people that support me is because I support them at some point in time. Or or
your reputation preceded you.
Yes, or they probably saw that I supporting someone and they think, well, I am a person like that. So it goes hand in hand. You have to support in order to get the support.
And I think in this business, I think entertainers and those in this business altogether are more likely to see how karma works firsthand, because exactly what you give out today, it's going to come back to meet you tomorrow or the day
I
after.
agree. I agree with
So
that.
I think artists are in a better poised and are in a better position to see or to witness karma firsthand.
That is true.
You know?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. A lot of people wouldn't understand, but I fully understand it. It's true.
So this is all the more reason, in fact, just enough reason that you need to always be kind. You never know the storms that people are going through. Do your best to do what you can. There is hope. Pivot. Know that you have support, but don't forget as well too that sometimes you have to be the support for other people as well. It's not only about what the world and people can do for you, but what you can do for others as well. Leeann, this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for sharing so freely. Thanks for agreeing to be a part of the show as well. And hopefully, maybe one day to come, my wife and I'll be able to sip some drinks and eat some finger foods while you and Ray play some music
Definitely.
and jam some rockers on a Sunday night.
Thank you very, very much for having me. It was very open and it was very informative, and I sure have people that would know some things
about you.
Yeah, and now they would find out. And I believe that you always have to lend support and even give, because I do a lot of charity, as I was telling you.
Yeah.
And I think that all of that goes hand in hand.
In closing, can you tell me what your plans are for your Santa's Little Helpers program this Christmas? Whether or not we're able to revive or to awaken from the present state of lockdown, I mean, fingers crossed that we would be sooner rather than later. But let's just assume the lockdown remains in place. How are you going to execute your Santa's Little Helpers program?
Okay, well, last year it was a concern because it was similar. We were in the similar
Lockdown,
situation, and it was a bit. We were concerned about having to go out there and distribute the items as well as collect, because friends and family, I even put it out on Facebook to the public to donate stuff, because I mean, if it's usually about 2,000 kids that we cater for,
Right.
and at least 100 to 150 food hampers. So it's difficult for me to do it by myself. You know, I need the support, and I decided normally it's a team effort with my friends, family, and 411 Dance Theatre would come together and do this. But last year I just collect the stuff, or I'll have it delivered home to me, and the distribution process, which I think would be the same thing we would be doing this year. We usually would go into these rural areas and we would walk. We would dress Santa, Mrs. Claus, and we would walk and interact. But last year we did not do that. We sat on a truck and we just distributed in a very, very
A low-key sort of manner.
yeah. We had the music truck.
Mhm.
Nobody was out of their vehicles. We had a motorcade. Whoever wanted to join us, they just joined us as a motorcade, and it was just about 3 or 4 of us on the truck, and we distributed. It was very nice. It was similar to what it was. It's just that we didn't interact and we didn't walk, but we distributed. I was able to do the same amount that I normally do. I think I just did I think it was less hampers as compared to the other years, but everything else ran smoothly. So I believe this year we would be able to do the same thing once we get the support.
Wonderful. So those who are interested in helping, they can connect with you on your different platforms. You've already given us your number, but remind us of your number and let folks know where they can find you online.
Okay, so my contact is 754-5078, and you can find me on Facebook at Leeann Dass.
Right.
411 has their own page, which is 411 Dance Theatre, both on Facebook and Instagram. We also have a YouTube channel, and DJ Ray has his own page. Really, so it has their own page,
Right.
but it's one contact, and they can contact me via any platform.
Okay.
TikTok, Twitter, Facebook.
My last question for you in closing off today's session, Leeann, is it that every wife comes with that built-in management feature?
Well, probably yes, because I mean,
I only ask because I'm under management presently.
well, I think you should be proud to to say that because not every husband have that management coming from their wife. So you and Ray should be proud of it. Of that.
I feel Ray and I need to have a conversation privately. But Leeann, thanks again for joining us on this fourth edition of Trini Inspirations for this second season of it. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing so freely and wholeheartedly, and best wishes in selling your brand and pumping your brand, and in all of your endeavors with the dance group, with your business, the Rayleigh brand, with your digital presence, with your social media management and marketing, with the concert, with the Santa's Help Us charity drives, and everything else that your hand or the efforts of yourself and your husband and your team will touch. Best wishes in advance from all of us here at the Trini Inspiration team.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for having me here to share my stories.
it was definitely a story worth hearing. So thanks again, and until next week, Monday, God willing, when we will be joined in studio by the man who has me saying chupake every time I hear the word sour being mentioned. He's going to be joining us in studio next Monday, and we'll be chatting about his appearances on the Na comedy series from South X. We'll be chatting about his career in music, but more so, believe it or not, we will be having a conversation that is rooted in spirituality as we chat with him about a side of him that the public has, to this day, for the most part, not gotten to know. We'll be chatting with Master Salim, aka Salim Bihari, next Monday on Trini Inspirations. Until then, bye for now and God bless.